Are credit issues holding you back from moving forward in life? Is it preventing you from qualifying for a mortgage and achieving the dream of home ownership? Hi there, my name is Milton and I'm the broker of Franklin Realty Consultants. I'm here with my good friend to discuss credit repair. Tamayo, he runs a company called Umbrella Credit Services. This is a credit repair company, correct?
Yes, it is a credit repair.
What exactly is credit repair?
So credit repair is a technique that we use to dispute any type of collections or any type of delinquency accounts that are in your credit report, whether they're yours or not, using what is called the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Report Act. The Fair Credit Report Act states that all the accounts in your system or all the information in your credit report must be perfect. It has to be correct. If there's any imperfections in your credit report, by law, the credit report agencies need to delete this information. So we use the FCRA to dispute accounts that are in your system that might not be correct, whether it's because they made it with mistakes or whether they don't belong to you.
And how prevalent is the mistakes?
Well, given that the information that the CRAs put in the system is made by humans, statistics show that about 79% of Americans have errors in the mistake. Why? First of all, it's because the information is put by humans, so human errors. And secondly, is because there are many people that have the same name. For instance, Milton Andrade. I'm sure you're not the only one.
My dad is also Milton Andrade. Milton Rafael Andrade. Identical names.
Yeah, you might not be the only one in the United States. With the individuals who are putting the information in your credit report are putting that information, Milton Andrade, there's hundreds of Milton Andrade that come up in the system. They might just choose the wrong person. So
there's a social security number, there's a date of birth, there's a lot more different data points that should go along with that. Why is there so much error?
Because there's 360 million Americans in the United States. Imagine if just, let's say, 0.1% of those are called Milton Andrade.
Right.
The person who's putting that information in the system doesn't have time.
And it's a person.
To go one by one and try to figure out that the information is correct. And just one digit, it makes the whole difference. It's just like goes out the account, goes right into your name. And so that's the reason why there's so many Americans, 79% Americans, have error in the credit report. So we use the Federal Credit Report Act to dispute those accounts and make sure that they get rid of your credit report so that we can increase your credit score.
And so how do you guys go about repairing credit?
It's sort of like a step-by-step process. First of all, when I sit down with a client, the first thing that I want to do is I want to pull their credit report. I use Identity IQ, which is one of the best credit report agencies out there. They give me information of the three major bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experience. I review the personal information, make sure that the name that shows in your credit report is your legal name. So we go by your driver license. Make sure that your social security is correct, your legal and current address is correct. If any of that information is incorrect, the first thing that I do is I get rid of all of them. Make sure that all that information is correct. Sometimes just by doing that, some of those accounts that I was telling you about that don't belong to you will automatically come off.
How long does that take for them to come off?
That might take about 30 days. Usually when you correspond with the CRAs, credit report agencies, by the Federal Credit Report Act, you have to give them 30 days to respond. So you write a letter or you call them or whatever it is that you do in your case, and you have to give them a time of 30 days for them to respond back. So then after we do that, then we go after the actual factual errors that they are. So for instance, when they're putting the information, if let's say the date of last active of that account doesn't match in all three bureaus, that's a violation of the FCRA.
Will it drop off of one bureau? Will it drop off of all the bureaus?
They're supposed to drop off for all three bureaus.
If they're not all in sync.
Right. They're if the account is active and is in good standing, it's a good account. What we request is for them to correct the error. But they say the account is a collection or an account that is in delinquency and it's an error and it's actually affecting your credit report. What we request is for them to drop the account.
Okay. And so do you need an attorney to do this? Do you guys have an attorney on staff? On file? Do you joint venture with them? Is there an attorney involved? Is it necessary to have an attorney?
Right. No, there are many credit repair companies that don't have attorney. We do have an attorney. We do have an attorney on staff. We work with them. Is a credit repair attorney.
Okay.
And the reason what that is important is because it sort of gives us more muscle behind our requests in our negotiations, in our letters, saying, hey, listen, this is, if you don't do what I'm asking you to do, we're going to sue you. And usually the collection agencies and the credit report agencies, once you send a letter like that to them, telling them that you're going to sue them, they actually
get put to the top of the list.
Yeah.
All right. The best return on investment you can have is an attorney letter.
Yeah.
Pay for the attorney letter, get what you want.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. What is the hardest debt to get rid of? What is the hardest debt or collection that you may find on your credit report that just is not going anywhere, or is it possible to remove it, but it's very difficult?
Yeah. So things that are very hard are things that they will, for instance, student loans are really hard to get rid of.
You can't even bankrupt out of the student
Right,
loans.
exactly. Right? And not only that, when I'm working with student loans, I have to negotiate your student loan, like consolidate your student loan before I can actually get rid of your student.
These are all student loans or just private loans or
it's
federal loans?
Federal student loans.
Federal student
and
loans.
Private loans are really hard to get rid of just because you're dealing with a private institution. We have to send what is called goodwill letters, and we have to dispute those based on actual factual errors. Sometimes private institutions are really good about putting information correctly. Another collection that is hard to get rid of, our collections are high. For instance, anything above $5,000, $10,000, $20,000.
Right.
Those are really hard to get rid of because the collection agencies don't want to give up that money that easy.
Right.
So usually
you're not going to walk away from that.
Right.
Also, a lot of the creditors are going to sell that debt.
They do. So that's what happens. But basically, that's the difference between, by the way, that's the difference between a charge-off and a collection off. When you're talking about you have a collection for $20,000, it's gonna be really hard for us to get rid of it. Usually, what we have to do is we have to end up doing a debt negotiation with the collection agency.
Okay.
And that is something that goes further into the step once we've tried other steps, and those haven't worked.
So, and what about medical debt? I've been doing real estate for almost 20 years. And I'll tell you that 90% of the people that I meet have some random medical collection that they didn't even know about, or they're like, I have insurance, that's supposed to be covered, but it's still there, and it's damaging their credit, like by hundreds of points. How do you get rid of those medical
Fairly easy. I mean, from all the collections, those are actually the easiest one to get rid of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the reason, I don't know if you know what's called HIPAA law.
Yeah.
The HIPAA law is a law that protects your personal information when you have any type of illness or disease. The hospitals or the dentists or the medical doctors are not supposed to share your personal information with anyone, and that includes collection agencies. The information that they can provide is very limited, and that includes and is limited to your name, your social security number, your date of birth, your address, and the amount of debt. That's it. They cannot provide any other information. 90% of the time, what happens is when they provide the amount of debt that you owe, they say what type of test they provide.
I say this was for an MRI, a CAT scan, or an ambulance.
Or an ambulance.
Private ambulances are always going to cost you thousands of dollars, and it's not covered by most insurance. So don't necessarily ask the ambulance driver if he's in your network, but you'll find that oftentimes you get picked up by an ambulance and it's not in your network, and it's going to be $15,000 for that ride. So
that right there is a violation with HIPAA law. And so the moment you talk to a collection agent, say, listen, you're violating HIPAA, and here's my lawyer representation letter. If you don't get rid of it, we're going to sue you. It comes up. I mean, 2-3 months is out of it.
And so I've also had clients in the past who are like, well, it's just a stupid collection I had. I'm going to go ahead and pay it. And I tell them, correct me if I'm wrong, you pay this collection, you are now bringing new activity to a bad debt, and your credit can potentially go down. And I've always told people, don't pay it unless you get a deletion letter. Right. And so how easy are those to get?
Yeah, I mean, you could do credit repair.
I've been doing this for a while.
We actually negotiate that with the collection agency. I always suggest people not to pay the entire collection because most of the time collections are among accounts that have been bought on pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar.
Let's say you have a collection for $5,000. They probably bought that collection or that account for like less than $1,000, and they're asking you to pay at $5,000. So we negotiate that, and we negotiate it. We ask them to do a validation of the collection to make sure that it's a real account. So it's nobody else. It's yours. And then once we do that, if we haven't been able to get rid of it due to factual errors using the FCRA law, then what we do is we do a debt negotiation and we request a letter of deletion. So basically, it's like
you don't get the money until I get the
but
deletion.
you have to,
Right.
And this is the great thing about having a lawyer, because let's say many times collection agencies will tell you, yes, we'll delete it and we'll send you a letter just because they want to collect on that.
Yeah.
But if you don't have lawyer representation, you're actually not obligated to do it. I mean, I just had a case a week ago where it was like that. It was a lady who she had $1,500 in collections, and I was able to negotiate it down to $500. And the collection agency said, "Yes, I'll send you a letter that we will delete it." Well, when I checked her credit report, 2 days ago, it was still
there.
So I called the collection agency. I wrote a letter of representation for my lawyer. I sent it to them. Said, "Listen, if you don't delete this, we're gonna sue you." Boom.
Right away.
Let's go.
All right. Well, okay. How about this? I've had clients come to me and say, "I only owe one debt, but it's on my credit report 6 times. May have been an old debt. Was it maybe sold multiple times, or how does this happen? And how do they get rid of that?"
That's also a violation of the FCRA, and also a violation of the Fair Credit Report Act. Accounts should only show in your credit report once. If there is more than one time, that's called duplicate accounts. And you can actually dispute with the credit bureaus say this is a duplicate account. You show them proof. Has to have the same account number. Has to be the same amount of money, all that stuff. And you tell them you need to delete this second account because it's a duplicate. You write them a couple of times, and if they don't delete it, I send them a lawyer presentation letter. Said, "Listen, I asked you twice to delete this, and you haven't done it. I'm going to sue you if you don't."
They delete it right away. Okay. And I would also say to people, please check your mail, because a lot of times these letters are in your mail, and if you moved away and you didn't forward your mail, you won't even know that you have a collection until you need to use your credit. Okay?
No, actually, what we do in the case with us is when we are sending this letter, we are sending lawyer representation letters. So the letters that are being sent to the clients are coming straight to our office.
Okay.
So I receive letters.
What if the creditor decides to sue you?
So if the creditor decides to sue you, we actually have lawyer representation. Our lawyer will go to court on your behalf, and they will defend you on your behalf, and we'll do a debt negotiation.
Is that like a Chapter 13?
No, that's if you need to do
That's a reorganization of debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
this is not that.
No. Speaking of which, sometimes with collection, it's very important to be proactive, because there are companies or there are credit card companies that will sue you. There are others that don't. There are others that will take forever and they never sue you, but there are others that will sue you. For instance, Credit Discovery Card is one of those companies that will sue you. Barclays is one of those companies that will sue you. BrandSmart is one of those companies that will sue you. So if you have a collection from any of these companies and you've had it for 3, 4, 5 months, watch out, because they are going to sue you.
Yeah.
So it's better to be proactive. It's better to...
Typically within the 90 days, that's when they're going to sell that debt. They're going to go after you. They're going to
go after you. They're going to sue you. Yeah.
So you need to be proactive.
Yeah.
All right. So this is another scenario. On Facebook, I'm part of a couple of groups where it's like people who want to be first-time homeowners, and I try to give them some advice. Oftentimes come across like, well, I got a divorce 8 years ago, and I've had this deadbeats, bad debts on my credit, and I don't want to pay it because that's not my debt. How do they fix that?
There's a couple of ways to go about that. One is if you can prove that the debt didn't belong to you, it belonged to your ex-spouse, then we could do a fraud letter stating that this account belonged to my ex-spouse, and he's the one who's in charge of
he or she, right?
Yeah, negotiate. And with our lawyer, we can negotiate that and make sure that the account goes to him.
But if they co-signed?
It doesn't matter. Let's say you co-signed a credit card.
Helped them get a car or something like that.
It doesn't matter. If the car belonged, you were the one who was driving, or your ex-spouse was the one who was driving the car, we can go ahead and say, with our lawyer presentation, this belonged to them, didn't belong to me.
Does it have to be on the divorce decree?
Well, I mean, ideally that's what
helps,
you want
right?
to do, but sometimes people don't do that because they don't realize that's what they need to do. And so there's way to go about that. There's way to, with lawyer representation, there's way to dispute those. Yeah.
Okay. What's your toughest case? The hardest case that you've had?
So I had someone who had 19 collections, about $150,000 in collections. So, yeah, it took me about 11 months to be able to solve those issues. And at the end,
you got to untangle that web.
Oh yeah, and it was a lot of lawyer representation. It was a lot of going back and forth. At the end of the day, we had to He had to file for bankruptcy because it was too much. The collection agencies did not want to hold the amount of money that we were asking them. And
right. They didn't want to negotiate. So did he do a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13?
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7. Complete forgiveness of debt.
Yeah.
All right. And by the way, you can get a mortgage, an FHA mortgage, 2 years after bankruptcy, or conventional, I believe it's 7 years after bankruptcy,
yeah.
Or can you get the bankruptcy removed?
Yeah, we can work on it, try to get it removed, yeah.
Okay, give me a success story then. What was the best case that you had? Because you can really dramatically change somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go from like a 400 or a 500 to over a 700. You get treated differently everywhere. So what's the best success story that you've had?
I mean, I have many of them. For instance, I had someone that within a couple of months, he was a military and he was actually outside of the country, and a couple of friends of his tried to open a small business account, get a loan, and they put him in the SBA loan and they didn't pay the loan.
SBA loan, that's a government loan.
Yeah, SBA. And when he came back, he was trying to purchase a home, and he couldn't because he had that collection. So we were able, with our lawyer presentation, to get rid of that within 2 months.
Did he co-sign on that SBA loan?
Yeah, he was part of the consignment.
But you were able to remove that.
Right, because the SBA loan, he was not the actually one. He co-signed, but it was not for him. It was for his business partners. We were able to remove it based on that.
He qualified for a house. He got a
He
mortgage.
has a house now. Another success story, I have another friend of mine who actually works for a dealership. He needed to move from an apartment. He was in the process of purchasing a house, and there was a collection. It was an apartment rental agreement that he had.
Okay.
It was someone else's name. So it was his name, but it was one of the situations where they had entered the wrong information in the system. And so I was able to get rid of that within a month. I just had another client who had a medical collection. And I mean, within 2 months, I was able to get rid of it.
It's amazing. I've seen some people that with less than $1,500 could bring their credit back to like perfect. And either it's because you're negotiating the debt, and a lot of times it's tiny little debts. Like one guy was like, oh, he owed $50 to T-Mobile, $20 to AT&T,
well, those are easy to get rid of.
And Xfinity, and all these tiny little, like death by 1,000 cuts. But it was like, I calculated it. I'm like, this is less than $1,000. And, they were at a 540, and I'm like, do you have $1,000 or even less? Let's get this taken care of. Let's negotiate it. So
right.
What does something like this cost?
When we do the initial consultation to create a plan for the individual, we don't charge anything for that. As it's just
free consultation.
Free consultation. It will take me about an hour for me to be either in a Zoom call or in person with you and go over your credit report and what it is that we can do. Then when I start to set up the entire plan, because I'm going to have to do a lot of letters and set up your case with a lawyer and all that stuff, that's going to take me about 2 or 3 hours. So for that first time, I charge $197. And then every month after that, we charge $97. And that includes everything that I have to do, whether it's negotiations with collection agencies, whatever it is, lawyer's letter representation, anything like that. The only time that we would charge something extra is if we're not doing credit repair, that we would have to do debt negotiation, which is the last step.
Okay.
Then what we do is we stop charging you $97. And what we do is we try to bring your debt, let's say if you owe $10,000 and I can negotiate the debt down to $2,000, then I'll charge you 20% of that.
Okay.
That's the only time that I would charge anything extra. And then my lawyer needs to go to court. It will actually charge you for that because they have to go to court.
Right. Be proactive, avoid court.
Yeah. Yeah, be proactive. Okay, exactly. Just the debt, the credit repair as per se is $197 the first time, and then $97 on a monthly basis. Includes all the services. And
how long does it take typically? It's a loaded question because some people maybe 30 days, some people 2 years, but
right.
On average.
So one of the things that I do is if I'm with a client, I see that I've been 4, 5, 6 months the most, and I haven't been able to get rid of those really big collections because it's so hard. I change strategy and I do that negotiation and try to get rid of them. There are some clients that have the money and they can just go ahead and say,
right.
well, I don't want to do credit repair. I want to just do that negotiation.
Right.
So we can just go jump.
And then you're getting the deletion letters.
Right. Then we do that negotiation.
How could our audience, clients, friends, how could they reach you? Where could they find your company? How do they get started?
Information to our clients. There was just a survey that came out. They rated 153 credit repair companies in South Florida. and they selected the best 25 credit repair companies. We came out as number 12.
Okay.
So number 12, that was based in knowledge, fairness, price. It was also in information. It was also fair on the adhering to the law. So we came number 12.
Do you do this just in Florida, or is
No,
it?
we're licensed in 12 states, but we are expanding. We want to be in all 50 states.
Okay.
The only state that you cannot actually be licensed is the state of Georgia, because you have to be a non-profit in the state of Georgia to do credit repair.
How can people reach you? Do you have a number, an
Yes,
email, a website?
so our website is umbrellacreditservices.com. My phone number is 954-558-8895, or my email is Andis, so ANDIS, at umbrellacreditservices.com.
If you like this content, please hit subscribe below or join our mailing list. I'll have all of Andis' information for Umbrella Credit Services, and I hope this has been informative. Thank you very much, and until next time.